International champion. So let's go ahead and get into this game, Chip. While we get into it, the thing I want to point out is there is a specific card in Tord's list that is going to cause Matias a lot of trouble. It is that Giratina from Unified Minds with that Dimension Breach ability, which allows Tord to discard the special energy off of Matias' active Pokemon. The key one being that Weakness Guard energy can allow Tord to put together a lot of math, the numbers needed, and then possibly put together a big knockout with something like that G-Max Rapid Flow.
Definitely. And right away, Matias, huge draw, opening up with that Weakness Guard energy, can go ahead and get that down onto an Eternatus V. And probably just going to see, yeah, this Galarian Zigzagoon goes back into the deck and going to go ahead and get that attachment. If I'm Matias, the very first thing I'm checking here is my second copy of Weakness Guard energy in the deck, or am I going to have to fish it out of the prizes?
Yeah, interesting choice to throw the Zigzagoon back in. Have the potential to draw maybe one more card off of something like the Crobat, but is really prioritizing that Eternatus VMAX for the following turn. As we look through the prizes here, it looks like a Marty is prized here, so we'll have access to one less of those, and we see the Phoebe in this deck, sort of a little way to counter through something like that Lucario and Melmetal deck, which plays the powerful Zamazenta. We also see that Palpad in hand, which allows Matias to be able to recycle these Phoebes to constantly have ways to get through Zamazenta. Not going to be very useful in this matchup. Looks through the deck that second copy of Weakness Guard is in the deck, so Matias got to be happy to see that, as we will see the turn 1 Weakness Guard attachment, and it looks like Crobat is going to use that Dark Asset ability, draws 3 cards, and those are pretty solid 3 cards. 3 access to Pokemon potentially with that Zigzagoon and the Great Ball, but Matias here is going to be content holding onto that Great Ball for next turn, wants to maximize the potential of getting a Pokemon after that top deck, as action is on Tord now, starting that Urshifu V. We'll have potential to grab some more Pokemon with something like the Level Ball. Great in this deck at searching out that 3-3 Chinchino line that Tord plays. Wants to be able to get that down as well. Can also grab something like a Jirachi. So if Tord maybe wants to find some sort of a trainer card out of the deck, can go for something like a Jirachi here with something like the 3 copies of Air Balloon that Tord plays.
Definitely. Matias had an excellent turn there. Really solid cards off the Crobat, like you mentioned. Now has the ability to, get 2 VMAXs in play, can and just 1 switch card away, plus a couple more Pokemon and 1 more Darkness Energy from taking the first knockout. And I think that's what Matias really wants to do in this matchup. Tord's deck, while it is very, very strong once it gets set up, it is a setup deck, right? You're not quite as aggressive as other builds of Urshifu. You don't have things like Professor's Research to just dig through your deck and see as many cards as possible, right? You really do rely on getting multiple Chinchinos in play, having some slower setup turns behind things like the Gormandized Snorlax, things like the Stellar Wish Jirachi. So if Matias can kind of push the advantage and start taking 2 prize knockouts super quickly, it could be a little too much for Tord to overcome.
And we do see that play with the Air Balloon coming into the active. We see that Jirachi already in the hand after grabbing that off of the Level Ball. And a big key card in this matchup, as we see Dedenne is going to draw towards 6 fresh cards, is that Marty, right? Tord can build up these big hand sizes with that Make Do ability and put together those combo pieces to get something like the Gale Thrust online, put together the pieces to set up a G-Max Rapid Flow. And Marty is great at disrupting and putting that hand size down for Tord, able to get down that first Minccino on the bench, and also has 2 Rapid Strike Urshifu V already down with 2 very useful tools. That Air Balloon is going to allow Tord to be able to get a Stellar Wish off at any point. Smartly going to utilize the Dene first, as we do see the Capture energy on that Urshifu will allow Tord to get something maybe like the Snorlax to utilize Gormandize. We do know he's playing 1 copy in the list, or could grab something like that second Minccino, which we do see Tord grab. So it's going to give him a lot of options next turn to be able to draw cards with Make Do. Again, such a powerful ability to set up those pieces this Urshifu VMAX deck needs, as Stellar Wish from Jirachi could find a whole bunch of pieces. Tord has not yet played a supporter, so we could see him continuously go through the deck. Does play a few copies of Marty, has stuff like Birdkeeper, so there are a ton of options here for Tord. I think just taking some time to look through Tord again. Cannot stress this enough. Very experienced player. Wants to make sure he is taking the best routes possible when it comes to grabbing things in there. As we said, that Birdkeeper, Tord maybe doesn't want to go into anything else necessarily on the bench. He's going to have to here with Birdkeeper, as we are going to actually promote the Dedenne GX into the active and pass the turn. So this could be a turn where Matias can put together the pieces to get a knockout of this Dedenne. It's not going to be too difficult, especially with that Dark Energy top deck.
Yeah, huge top deck there. Basically, the only thing Matias needs at this point is to find one of the 4 switch that he plays, and then he'll be able to take the first 2 prizes. But, I mean, this makes sense from Tord. It's kind of, sure, you give up 2 prizes by sending up the Dedenne GX, but you really do want to keep your Minchinos in play. Chinchino is your draw engine, and you definitely don't want to lose one of these Urshifus right away. So, and this is actually a big draw here from Matias as well. Does have the switch card, but also the Crushing Hammer could get rid of that energy attachment on Tord's side. Of course, while taking this knockout, will activate the Karate Belt, and Matias actually going to go ahead and hold on to the Crushing Hammer, maybe wanting to save that for a turn when, you know, Tord isn't necessarily going to have Karate Belt active. I'm not sure.
Yeah. The capture energy in this deck for Tord is really utilized for setting up. Again, cannot utilize Gale Thrust with that colorless energy, that capture energy provides. So I think Matias smartly holding on to that to maybe disrupt something like a Fighting Energy that Tord only plays 2 copies of, or obviously those 4 copies of the Rapid Strike Energy, as another level ball will get grabbed off that Stellar Wish, and there we see the Bird Keeper is going to draw even more cards for Tord. Just needs to find a VMAX. Interestingly enough, not playing the level ball until after the Bird Keeper. So that will be 1 less card out of the deck. That is not something like this Chinchino that gets grabbed, but this may be the time for Tord to start utilizing that Make-Do ability to draw some cards. He's going to go ahead and get rid of that capture energy. Has a pretty set up board, not really prioritizing getting another basic Pokemon on the deck. And there we see the second Chinchino will be able to utilize Make-Do yet again. And Tord's board is developing really nicely here, Chip. Has the cards necessary to potentially put together a Gale Thrust at this point. Just needs to find a Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX in order to do that.
Definitely. And you're not even really pressured to find that Giratina we've mentioned. You don't have to find it this turn, right? You're not going to get a one-hit KO on this anyway. If you do get rid of that special energy, you can hit for 300 damage. But Eternatus VMAX, of course, with a monstrous 340 HP, very difficult to take down for anything in one hit. We don't see Tord playing like the martial arts dojo that you'll see from these lists from time to time. Tord's not opting for any stadiums at all in his list. And we will see the VMAX on the bench, and that Karate Belt is active thanks to Matias taking those first couple of prizes.
Yeah, we will at least see that be able to come up and swing for 150 damage with that Gale Thrust ability. That Rapid Strike Urshifu V in the active, already having an easy way to pivot in that Air Balloon. Tord really valuing Air Balloon in this deck, utilizing it a lot for those switching outs. As we also see that Tord is playing 4 copies of Switch 2, wants to have other abilities to pivot out of the active. I think Tord just thinking through what else to do, has already utilized both Make-Dos, as we actually will see the Quick Ball come down. It's going to discard a Pokemon Communications from the hand. So Tord values actually getting this Giratina this turn. I like this play from Tord. Not only do you get rid of the weakness, so you're going to be hitting for more damage, but more importantly, you're also setting Matias back an energy attachment. So if he wants to attack with this Eternatus VMAX, we'll need to commit another energy just for that Eternatus VMAX to most likely go down via a knockout the following turn. And this also will set up the math to easily take a knockout with something like Gmax Rapid Flow next turn, as this will be dealing 300 damage this turn, and then the following turn can deal an easy 120 damage to this active, and then maybe hit something like that Galarian Zigzagoon on the bench, and then all Tord is a boss's orders away from knocking out one of those 2 Chromat on the bench.
And Tord's actually going to go ahead and utilize this Gmax Rapid Flow, gets rid of this Galarian Zigzagoon on the bench, and I think Tord's game plan is pretty straightforward. Take the knockout on the VMAX. You've already taken the 1 prize on the Galarian Zigzagoon, and then all you need to do is find the ability to knock out one of these Fighting Weak Pokemon on the bench for the last 2 prizes. So pretty straightforward, honestly, for Tord at this point. And I like Tord's decision as well to go ahead and use Gmax Rapid Flow, plays around a potential Crushing Hammer from your opponent, right? And you can go ahead and take that prize, and you still have your Karate Belt active since you're only taking 1 prize as opposed to, tying your opponent's 2 prizes.
And Matias has a lot of options here. Could target down something like that Giratina if he does not want Tord reusing it during this turn. I think he's considering here even playing that Crushing Hammer. It just feels so bad to get rid of what is probably the worst attacking energy in Tord's list as that capture energy. Would much rather be getting rid of something like that Rapid Strike energy or that basic fighting energies. We actually see Matias opt to play no supporters this turn, is going to swing at this Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX for 150 damage, so still a sizable amount of damage, but this just opens the door up for Tord. Has so many potentials, needs to find one of those 4 switch in the deck, is going to go ahead and start making do, gonna get rid of that air balloon with the first one. The second one will go ahead and get rid of quick ball. That bench is full. Tord does not need to find any more basics, is in a solid spot board-wise. I believe has not played any one of his 4-switch, so it is very likely here that Tord will be able to find the cards necessary in order to take this game. Still has not played a supporter yet, so also could utilize something like the Bird Keeper. But there we see the Cheryl, a big one-of card, and Tord is going to heal all the damage off of this active VMAX, which makes me think that Tord has a switch in hand. He's not going to be utilizing Bird Keeper, but again, that pretty much sets Matias back an entire turn, especially after not playing any supporter cards from hand. Tord just needs to find something like that switch, can still utilize the Karate Belt, because Matias took 2 prizes there. So another smart decision from Tord is actually going to go ahead and attach to that benched VMAX. So we are actually just going to see the Gale Thrust deal 60 damage. Yeah, did not find the switch there. So this opens up the door for Matias to potentially put something together here, as Tord not having the most explosive turn, especially going to be hitting this Crushing Hammer heads. It's going to be big. It's going to set Tord back that energy attachment, as Matias has a few options to take.
Yeah, definitely. We've got the Marnie. You could go ahead and Boss's Orders something. I don't really like the Boss's Orders nearly as much since that Urshifu VMAX on the bench. You weren't able to knock it out anyway, which is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, I think Matias is just going to have to kind of draw through the deck here. Does go ahead and find the second Urshifu VMAX. And I mean, at this point, Tord is in a really, really good spot. You're going to be able to hit it pretty hard, the Urshifu VMAX, as Matias, that is. But at this point, Tord is just a Rapid Strike energy and a Boss's Orders away from closing out this game.
Yeah, I think it's really going to be on Matias to find that crucial Marnie card next turn. Tord will be able to build the hand size up even more, going to start things out with the Make Do, getting rid of unnecessary pieces like another Urshifu V. Does not need that anymore. Already has those 2 VMAX Pokemon set up. And again, while Tord did not do much that turn, it was crucial that he at least found that Cheryl to set Matias back a turn, right? If Matias would be able to take a knockout on that Eternatus, or excuse me, on that Urshifu VMAX this turn, then Tord would be in a little bit of a tough spot, right? Tord cannot win the game. There's no real way for him to take those prizes. We need to find the Rapid Strike energy in addition to something like a Boss's Order. So again, it's still possible, but Bird Keeper is at least going to guarantee the knockout. Plus some more. Tord could also go for something like that G-Max Rapid Flow this turn to set up some math onto a Crobat V so that he doesn't even need Boss's Orders next turn, can just find one of those 2 remaining copies of the Rapid Strike energy left in deck.
Yeah, Tord has plenty of ways to try to close this game out. And, you know, Matias is going to have to play to his outs here. He's definitely, I think, in a little bit of a tough spot. Tord is definitely the player I would favor in this exact position, but can't count Matias out just yet. Eternatus VMAX, we've seen how powerful it's been over the last few months. You know, just effectively a stage 1 Pokemon, right? Being a VMAX, being able to deal 270 damage for just 2 energies is extremely powerful. As we do see that Rapid Strike energy come down from Tord, are we going to see the G-Max Rapid Flow here?
I believe we will. If it targets that Crobat, then Tord has so many options to take this game in this case. There we go. G-Max Rapid Flow, interestingly enough, is also going to go ahead and smartly attack with this clean Urshifu V. And the reason I like this play a lot is you force now Matias, if Matias wants to take these prize cards on that bench turn to this, excuse me, on that bench Urshifu VMAX, will need to utilize Boss's Orders and cannot reset Tord his colossal hand size here, having 10 cards in hand, I believe, 11 actually, and this is going to be a very tough spot for Matias. Starts to turn out with a Crushing Hammer draw. That could just be a card to get discarded off something like Quick Ball. Looks like eyeing up playing down something like this Galarian Zigzagoon. Interesting choice from Tord to actually target the VMAX in the active. It just opens up more options in this case. Instead of having to find something like another Rapid Strike energy, now all you need is a way to pivot right out of the active. You just need to find one of your switch, or if this Urshifu VMAX gets knocked out in the active, you could just promote that Chinchino on the bench with an air balloon, and then all you need to find is a fighting energy or your Rapid Strike energy. So very smart play from Tord. It's going to open up even more options, as Quick Ball is going to find that Yveltal, and Matias needs to find a weak discard energy. This will be a big draw if he can find that. Not quite there, but does find the Marnie, a big card to be able to reset Tord's hand size down. I'm sure we're going to be seeing that supporter get played, especially with Matias being unable to draw any more cards, but actually Matias is going to go with the research. Very interesting. He's going to respect the choice, but does not find that weak discard energy.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any options here. As going to go ahead and scoop game number 1 up here. Tord is going to take that in a pretty dominating fashion. Again, as we said earlier, Giratina, such an important card in this matchup. You would think it gets tough, right, when your main factor in this matchup, weakness, is not able to be applied. But again, Giratina, so strong at being able to get rid of that weakness that the weak discard energy provides and put yourself in such a solid position.
Yeah, definitely. I think the decision for Tord to go ahead and G-Max Rapid Flow that damage onto the Eternatus VMAX with the energy on it makes a ton of sense. It's the only thing with energy on Matias' side of the board. It's the only thing he can possibly attack with on this turn. So by going ahead and putting that damage there, you make it much easier for yourself to try to close the game out. And even if your opponent does find the weakness guard energy, we've got that Giratina to fall back on, right? As long as you can find the scoop up net, you can go ahead and use Dimension Breach once again and discard that energy and still hit for weakness and be able to pick up that last knockout.
Yeah, Matias definitely felt on the back foot that match. Chip, going to game 2, right? These players need to be able to win these sets in order to advance. Matias, if he takes a game loss in game number 2, will be eliminated from the tournament. Is there anything different Matias can do, or does this matchup just feel too uphill for him?
This matchup is definitely tough, and not only is the matchup itself tough, but you're playing against one of the best to ever do it in Tord. So, I mean, I think Matias played very well in that game, really just needs to be aggressive. I think that's going to be Matias' game plan going into this one as well. Go first, try to get that first energy attachment, and see if you can pop off a little bit. Take a 2-prize knockout on Urshifu V, maybe. Maybe Tord gets a little unlucky with the start, right, and only gets one Urshifu in play. If you can target that down quickly, that could be really strong for you. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be onto Matias to kind of push the advantage, try to really apply a lot of pressure and force Tord to find the answers.
Again, such a crucial game number 2 here. Matias needs to win in order to push a game 3 and keep himself alive this tournament. We're ready to go ahead and get into game number 2. Let's throw it down to the players here. Action is on them. Matias will be opting to go ahead and start the game out by going first here. It looks like, yep, there we go. Matias is going to start things out going first. This hand is looking all right, but there's a lot of unthinnable cards in the hand, like those 2 Crushing Hammer, Chip.
Yeah, definitely solid, but not the best. And I like this, I think, from Matias. Just going to go ahead and start the Zigzagoon as opposed to the Urshifu, or excuse me, to the Eternatus V. You know, the Zigzagoon's math doesn't really help you pick up any KOs, I feel like, in this matchup. Maybe being able to deal 220 to an Urshifu V on turn 2, potentially. As we do see the Crobat top deck pretty nice there from Matias, can thin this Eternatus V back into the deck and grab, you know, maybe something like this Eviltal or even another Eternatus V. Try to thin those pieces out, find something else to bench so that you can draw even more off the Dark Asset. And the main thing you're looking for here is that turn 1 energy attachment so that you can be aggressive on turn 2 and start attacking very quickly with a Dread End.
Yeah, maybe regretting starting that Zigzagoon a little bit. 2 switch are in the prize card. So again, if Tord has the ability to take some time, get that board set up, it will not be in Matias's benefit. Looking through the rest of the deck to see 2 Dark Energy prize there. Both weak discard energy, however, are in the deck. This is a pretty sizable deck, Chip. Only going to be drawing 3 cards off this Dark Asset. So this is going to be a big draw. Matias needs to find an energy here. Otherwise, Tord can just start putting on aggression, and it gets pretty ugly from there. Chip, assuming there's no energy found, what do you think Matias's best line of play is going forward, especially being on the back foot?
You're definitely going to have to try to work in a Power Accelerator, but let's hope that doesn't have to happen. Oh, unfortunate. No energy draw there from Matias. So, I mean, I think it's going to have to be trying to pivot into a turn of using Power Accelerator to accelerate that energy to the bench to get caught up on your attachments here.
Tord starting out nicely with a level ball. We'll be able to search one of many key cards out of the deck, such as that Minccino to start getting that line set up. Can also search out, again, like he did in game 1, that Jirachi. Great at utilizing Stellar Wish, especially when you know your opponent is not going to be able to put on serious aggression the following turn. You could just utilize Jirachi to get pretty much 2 guaranteed Stellar Wishes in while you're building up your board. But Tord, we know he's very experienced, is going to find the best possible target off of this level ball. On Matias' side, though, does at least have a pretty decent response in the double Crushing Hammer, the guaranteed VMAX for next turn, Great Ball to find maybe some more Pokemon, and of course that Marnie, again, such a disruptive supporter card as we do see Tord go for the same strategy in game 1. Level Ball going to find that Jirachi as Quick Ball here is going to go ahead and discard that Mew, obviously in there for that mirror match. Also good against some other Pokemon in the standard format. We'll be able to grab that Urshifu, and a big Marnie from Tord is going to put Matias down a card. Importantly for Tord, though, is going to draw 5 fresh new cards. Tord has not seen an energy this turn, no Minccino either, so Tord definitely looking for some more pieces to get things going.
Definitely. And Matias able to find one of those copies of Switch, definitely a huge draw, will allow him to pivot into that Evil Tall and try to find the turn of Power Accelerator potentially here, as well as a Juniper, very solid. As we do see, Tord is able to capture energy down the Snorlax. We see an Air Balloon to the Zigzagoon, and we'll see a Gourmandize fill that hand back up to 7. Only has the one Rapid Strike Urshifu in play, so this is the situation I was talking about. If Matias could have gotten that turn 1 energy attachment, you have an opportunity here where you can knock out Tord's only Urshifu V. It's unfortunate for Matias it did not quite work out in this instance, because that would have been very strong if he could have pulled it off.
Yeah, would have had to find a lot of pieces off that Marnie. Something like the Eternatus VMAX, an Energy, Boss's Orders, a whole bunch of cards. As we do see that Crobat is going to draw the hand up to 6, finds a couple key cards like that Darkness Energy and that Eternatus VMAX. So we could see this go ahead and VMAX in the active, but I think Matias is going to, as you said, prioritize that Power Accelerator, needs to get caught up on attachments, especially with Giratina, pretty much setting you a turn back when you're forced to go ahead and attach those Weakness Guard energies. Action will be back on Tord, able to keep that hand this time off of the Gourmandize. We've seen many times Tord utilize Gourmandize, and the opponent just go, hey, I have a Marnie, so I'm going to basically reset that Gourmandize. Again, such a powerful card in this deck as a one-of, super powerful indeed. As we do see the Urshifu VMAX going to get grabbed, so Tord able to establish that very quickly on turn number 2. The Snorlax will have to find a way to get out of the active, but again, Tord can just be content taking this turn. To Gourmandize, we see another Urshifu V get down. That Capture Energy most likely going to find something like that Minccino to start getting the board set up, and there we do see it. Going to come down. Nice little shiny card from Hidden Fates. You'd love to see all those cool, cute artworks from the recent expansions.
Definitely. And I mean, when we saw that VMAX come out, I was kind of thinking, oh, are we going to see a change of pace from Tord? Is he going to go a little aggressive here and try to take the first prizes? But Tord had me fooled. I think, what we've seen pretty much always from Tord in these spots with his deck is just playing it slow. He is fine to play the long game, fine to take turns to set up, fine to just sit behind the Snorlax and Gourmandize until it gets knocked out so that the revenge cards, the comeback cards like the Karate Belt get activated.
Yeah, and smart play from Tord is going to thin the hand down to 2. We know one of those cards is a perfect card for the following turn in that Cinccino wants to get those set up to draw through the deck as fast as possible. And the good thing, again, that we haven't really utilized or rather talked about is Cinccino is great at getting rid of those cards you don't want to see in the late game, off of something like a Reset Stamp or something off of Marnie. And that's also such a powerful effect of Make Do. Not only are you drawing cards, but you're also getting rid of cards you don't want to see. We do know this deck is playing a pretty thick line of that Urshifu VMAX. You really don't need to get 3 Urshifu VMAX set up. You don't really need to find all 4 of your Urshifu Vs, so Tord is going to utilize that Make Do ability to draw even more. As we do see a nice Marnie draw off of Matias's Dark Asset, is down 3 of those 4 Crobats. Something to note out here is we will just see the Marnie get played. So Matias has got to find an energy here off of these cards. Does find a Weakness Guard energy, so a very nice draw from Matias. Will be able to take the knockout on this active Snorlax. Will be taking the first prize, but again, Chip will activate something like the Karate Belt, which will give Tord even more options to apply pressure this turn.
Definitely. So Matias here, I mean, you're taking this first prize, but I don't really know how good you're feeling about it. Matias had an opportunity, if he had drawn a little better off that Dark Asset, could have maybe chased this Urshifu VMAX on the bench and hit into it maybe a turn before Tord's able to really attack with it. Then you're forcing Tord to find switch cards, to find the Cheryl, something like that, to heal the Urshifu VMAX, but was not quite able to find the pieces on Matias's and didn't find the energy or the boss to do that. Had to just go with the Marnie. And I mean, you got to play the hand you're dealt in the Pokemon trading card game. So he had to roll with the Weakness Guard energy attach. And I think if you're going to draw an energy there, the Weakness Guard is definitely the one you want to find, because it forces Tord to maybe chase after that Giratina maybe a little bit quicker than he would like to.
Yeah, there's 2 lines of play there with attaching the Weakness Guard to the active. You do also open that bench space up for Tord, taking that knockout. And we do know that Tord is playing 4 copies of stuff like that Scoop Up Net in the deck. So we could actually see something like this Jirachi even get picked up out of play to open up a space for that Giratina to get rid of the Weakness Guard energy. Tord's definitely going to want to find at this turn, promoting that Urshifu VMAX off the Bird Keeper will also draw some more cards here for Tord. Have to imagine at least wants to get something off like a Gale Thrust, can follow that up next turn if he can find something like the Giratina with a G-Max Rapid Flow to take a knockout, also apply pressure to maybe this benched. A turn of this VMAX could also take a knockout on the bench the Veltal to then set up some math here. So Tord is going to have plenty of options, but needs to apply some pressure this turn. You really do not want to let Matias roam free with the pressure, as there we do actually see the Rapid Strike energy come down onto this Urshifu VMAX. This opens up even more plays. Tord can now go for something like a G-Max Rapid Flow on the active. Could also take a knockout on something like that benched Veltal. Could also go after something like that Eternatus VMAX as well, as we will also see the Air Balloon come down onto the active, so going to give him some nice pivoting options for next turn. This Urshifu VMAX, 330 HP, is not going to go down to a full bench Dread End, so it's not really being threatened for a knockout. And also the nice thing here, if you do opt to go for a G-Max Rapid Flow, is it opens up that play for something like a Cheryl the following turn. We saw how useful that was for Tord in the game before, but it's actually going to go ahead and attach the Karate Belt to the bench. Chip, are we going to see something like a G-Max Rapid Flow, or are we going to see a Gale Thrust this turn?
Yeah, I think based on what we saw Tord do in game number 1, wants to utilize G-Max Rapid Flow when he's got the energies necessary to do it. Of course, knows Matias plays the full 4 copies of Crushing Hammer, so I think it's a good turn to do it. And we see kind of the same thing as last time, where you're able to knock out 1 3-prizer, knock out a 1-prizer, and then all you have to do is target down a Crobat in the late game to close out the game. Definitely a strategy Tord can set up here, and I have to imagine this is going to get rid of that Yveltal, gets rid of that free retreat option. Actually, no. Gonna go ahead and target down 2 Crobats. And I like this as well because you have that Karate Belt on the bench. You actually, by taking the prize on the Yveltal, you would turn off your own Karate Belt. So this actually, I have changed my mind. This is the best play for sure. Tord is able to find it.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe you would target something down like that at benched Eternatus VMAX as well to maybe just try to play a 6-prize game, but I think the main thing I could say here is Tord never surprises me at this point. I mean, he always has the routes of play that I would never expect here. Sitting down and analyzing it, will he target that Yveltal down? Will he target the 2 VMAXs down? No, gonna go after both bench Crobat. And this even opens up a play to ignore this Eternatus VMAX in the active. Can go ahead next turn, or this turn rather, and G-Max Rapid Flow and take another 4-prize turn utilizing that Karate Belt. And then just needs to Gale Thrust, that bench Crobat V, the third one here that has no damage on it. So Tord taking a much different line of play. It's also super solid to mix up lines of play, right, when you're going into different games. Your opponent saw how you were able to take the first game. Maybe he's going to play a little bit differently to prevent that, and you can just throw something new out of your book of tricks, and Tord has multiple tricks, multiple ways to play this deck, knows that this build allows him to play a lot more freely, allows him to play a lot differently, utilize stuff like Karate Belt, utilize Gale Thrust. This deck has tons of options already, and Tord is going to start things off with this Stellar Wish, is going to allow him to find those trainer cards out of the deck, wants to at least get something off like a Gale Thrust, could also go for a G-Max Rapid Flow. Reset Stamp is going to be the grab, so that can help him set some stuff back later on in the game, as we do see Birdkeeper, such a powerful supporter, allowing you to draw cards and pivot into these Urshifu VMAXs to get the full effect off of Gale Thrust, and also set up something like that G-Max Rapid Flow. Here is the first to make do. It's going to go ahead and get rid of Pokemon Communication. Feels pretty confident in the board right now. Again, Tord having so many options to play, at minimum, can at least apply some pressure to this VMAX. Also has the ability to do some other things, as we do see the Giratina is going to come down and get rid of that weak discard energy, Dimension Breach. The key ability in this matchup, as there is a Scoop Up Net as well, is going to go ahead and pick that Giratina up right away. Does not want to allow Matias to apply pressure the following turn, as we actually see the Capture Energy is going to go ahead and grab basic Pokemon out of the deck if Tord chooses to. Again, super smart. Gonna make sure to scoop up net that Giratina first to open the bench space up. Tord, such a world-class player, Chip, knows exactly how to maneuver this matchup and maneuver this deck.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the thing is Tord just really is not feeling that much pressure from Matias right now. Sure, you've got this Urshifu VMAX on the bench with 240 damage on it, but you know this active one is multiple turns away from being KO'd, and if the Cheryl is in the deck, you know you'll always have that option. And you've got yourself, you know, hundreds and hundreds of damage in play on your opponent's side of the field. You haven't taken any knockouts yet. Your opponent is ahead on the prize race, so technically ahead in the game. But I mean, if we're looking at these two boards, Tord is very, very, very far ahead in this one.
And Crushing Hammer from Matias will reset that Capture Energy, so it is a pretty relevant energy in the case that Tord would only need to attach a basic Fighting next turn to utilize that G-Max Rapid Flow. And Tord, again, playing very patiently, does not want to take prizes, wants to get the full usage out of that Karate Belt just gives him more options. Right now, you have the play to go through the VMAX and then take a G-Mesh Trap and Flow knockout toward just opening so many doors up, utilizing these plays that just give him the most options to win the game. And that's so important in the Pokemon trading card game. You want to open up as many keys to victory as possible. And Tord really just showing us how it's done. As Quick Ball's not going to grab anything, but Matias does find the other weak guard energy. We may be seeing a big Crobat here. Needs to find one of those switches left in deck. Only has one, though, and does find it.
Huge draw, the last switch remaining. I mean, hey, I think Matias knows if I attack with this Eternatus VMAX in the active with 300 damage on it, there is no way I am ever winning this game. So just had to play to the outs here. It was not super likely to draw the switch, but I think Matias recognizing that is my best way to try to win this game is by going into this clean Eternatus VMAX. That's exactly what Matias was able to do. Finds the switch off the Crobat, pays off hugely, and now onto Tord. There's a ton of damage in play. This is a perfect time to play that one-of copy of Cheryl.
Oh, Chip, if we see it, there it is. The Cheryl's going to heal so much damage. Matias understanding what a crucial play. And the Giratina as Tord acknowledging.
Man.
Hey, I maneuvered that perfectly. That was great. Got the full effect. I think that's the most effect you can actually get out of the Cheryl in this case, is we just see 60 damage on the active, but this is just such a poor spot for Matias. I believe doesn't even have any switch left in deck, so it's going to be forced to attach this energy to the active and play this research, but now you open up a door for Tord to take a knockout with something like Gale Thrust the following turn. Palpad going to be great at putting those boss's orders back in the deck, wants to utilize those to try to put together these big prize turns. There we see that Dread End going to deal a massive 270 damage to this Urshifu VMAX. Not quite enough to take the knockout, but Tord is going to definitely be in the driver's seat this match, as we do see Level Ball just going to thin the deck out, right? Wants to grab some cards to utilize with Make Do. There is the Bird Keeper. That's going to guarantee the knockout onto this Eternatus VMAX. And Chip, I don't know. Is there any way Matias can come back? It just seems like Tord is shutting the doors so quickly on Matias.
I mean, if Tord prized a huge amount of his energy, like the remaining Rapid Strike energies, if they're all in the prizes and he's not able to find them here off of this knockout, I mean, there's technically a path back in for Matias, but I mean, even then, Tord has the basic fighting energies and there's just so much damage in play. It is definitely looking difficult for Matias, but the game is still not over. Tord's got to play it out. You know, there's always, we saw yesterday, you know, people make mistakes all the time. There's always the opportunity for a misclick somewhere along the way, right? So, you don't ever expect something like that from Tord, but things can definitely happen. And in a tournament like this where there is so much on the line, of course, these players fighting for a stipend to a future international championship, they, you got to stick around and play to the outs. But maybe Matias thinks a little better of it and says, it's pretty unlikely I'm ever going to win this one. Let's go ahead and dip out of here, and we'll send Tord on to the next round of the losers bracket.
Yeah, Tord maneuvered that matchup so perfectly. Was able to find all the key pieces necessary and took all of the options away from Matias in a matchup where you don't have that many options to begin with, let alone...